What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Master Duel video. It is your boy Vox, and today I'm gonna be giving you guys 5 deck options for you to test out and try in the new Limit Festival 1 that is coming in Master Duel in 2 days from now. Let's go straight into the decks. For these decks, I will be clicking through the cards so you can read them and see what they're doing, but basically you get the gist. With the Limit Festival, the Highlander Festival, basically, you will only be able to play each copy of one card. So that means you can basically add whatever you want, as long as it can have some decent interactions in between these cards. So as you can see from this deck, if you have, for example, more hand traps, you would put more hand traps, but generally what you would do is you add engines and cards that work well together. In this case, you can see that we have Swordsoul cards with Worm cards in order for our extra deck to be useful, to be able for us to get into our extra deck. You can see cards like I said in Thunder. If you have this card, you will put it in every single deck that you have. It's a free 7 and it's a free, basically a free special summon, free extender. As you can see, we play a small P.U.N.K engine, and then the general destruction removal cards, Monster Reborns, the Searchers for whatever deck you're playing. Basically, this is the idea for the festival. Like, you don't necessarily have to have every single card that I'm showing you. I'm just giving you an idea, like a basic framework for you to work on in case you either have the cards, or if you're missing one or two, you can basically play around with different assortment of hand traps, of maybe other traps. You can even have cards like, where is it? Lord Heavenly of Sky, Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Cards like that can work if you have a lot of back row cards. And you can basically get the idea that with this deck specifically, a lot of tuners, a lot of synchros that we can utilize, that you can lock your opponent with cards like Charisma Blader. Don't expect decks for this festival to be extremely consistent because of the fact that everything is limited, meaning that obviously some of the times you'll have dead hands, etc. But ideally, you will have something for you to play to at least get into something for you to actually be able to play, right? This is the first deck. I honestly believe that this will be one of the best decks and the most prevalent ones, the ones that are using the Swordsoul, the Tenyis, the extra worms, basically, a small P.U.N.K engine into that. I believe that this specific iteration will be one of the best. But yeah, this is the first deck. Let's go and show you guys the second. For the second deck, you can see that I'm actually playing heroes for this. This specific deck can actually work pretty well because it has a lot of extenders. It has ways for you to recur your polymerization with your extra hero wonder driver. But basically, as you can see, you have the same hand trap options as we had in the previous deck most of the times. Again, the more hand traps that you have that you can integrate into the deck, you're fine. Cards like Crossout Designator, again, work extremely well in this event, because with Crossout Designator, because you'll have every single hand trap in your deck, you will most likely be safe from every single hand trap whenever you draw your Crossout Designator. I have not crafted my Crossout Designator, that's why I do not see it in these decks. Otherwise, I would have played it. I would have added it in every single deck that I have. But yeah, you get the idea. This deck specifically works as heroes would, but then you would have different other extenders or cards that you could draw with Legacy of Hero. Funnily enough, this can actually work pretty well. And you have the N-chip, the Frightful package for you to search your poly, because that's the idea. That's why we have cards for us to search our polymerization in order for us to go into our extra deck. And then, as you can see from the extra deck, is the general options that you would add for your extra deck, for your super poly targets. In general, Fusion Hero Trinity for you to close out games. Then your Starving Venom Drum with your Mad Dragon of the Swamp for your super poly targets as usual. Your Thunder Dragon Colossus, because you can get him with your Nemesis Corridor. You could use his effect to get one of your banished monsters back into your hand, back into the deck, sorry, and then you could special summon Nemesis Corridor, and because you special summon Nemesis Corridor, then you can use him to go into your Thunder Dragon Colossus to lock your opponent. Every Hero Malicious Bane, one of the hardest cards to get out, to actually, for your opponent not to remove, that's what I meant, pretty hard card. And then Wonder Driver for you to get your polymerization back whenever you summon a hero into the arrow he points to, and Wonder Driver. A pretty decent deck, a deck that has decent draw power, has a decent end board, good interruption, And again, because everything is limited to 1 for this event, as a Highlander event, any card that you could add that you feel that adds power into your deck, don't be afraid to add it. Test it, see how it goes. As you can see, I even added a Magistry Alchemist. You can read the card if you want to, but basically this event gives you the opportunity for you to test and see how other cards that you have not played in the general format would actually work for this. And I honestly believe that this event will be the most fun out of every single event. So yeah, this was for the second deck. Let's go ahead and show you guys the third deck. And for the third deck, as you can see, we're utilizing a Danger Dark World engine for our deck to work, for our deck to function. As you can see, we have cards that basically discard, and then when you discard them, you either draw or basically gain more advantage through them. Cards like Armageddon Knight, Dark Refer gain us more advantage. To use them to get basically get our Grapha into our graveyard and go from there and start our plays. The deck utilizes these effects to the greatest potential. Because they are limited, it honestly, as with every deck, hurts its consistency, but with poor decent hands you can still make plays. As you can see, you have cards like, for example, Goki Pole, where if you discard it, it goes to graveyard. You will basically search your Danger Mothman and you would go from there. Shadow Beasts, if it goes to the graveyard, you draw 1 card. You get the idea. You will start drawing your deck with this deck faster and faster, as long as you're not getting interrupted. And then, obviously, as you can see again, with the previous 2 decks, and this will be very common whenever you start playing with a festival, you will realize that obviously we run the same one of cards that are good, either that is hand traps, either that is disruption for your opponent, for more traps, whatever you may have, test them for this festival and it actually probably work. That is the funny thing with this, and again, as I've said, I genuinely believe that this event will be one of the best. Dark Law, we utilize him because we have Mask Change 2. You can easily go into your Dark Law. Thunder Dragon Colossus again, because you can use your Nemesis Corridor to go into your Thunder Dragon Colossus. We use number 100 Numeron Dragon because we can OTK our opponent. Number 62 Garrus to draw. A Nominee Negate for number 23. Dragublion in order for us to go into our Numeron Dragon for OTK. Basically this to use him as a material for the Numeron Dragon for OTK. Then we also use the Spiders in order for us to either make number 77 to remove a card off of your opponent, and then obviously we have Zeus as well. And then for the general links, 1 IP, 1 Curious to send whatever cards you might want to your graveyard. Usually it would be Snow, then 1 Appaloosa, 1 Access Code Talker, and 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Basically this deck will explode the field with multiple special summons, so you'll have many options for you to go. But ideally, if you're playing first, you would want to end up either to your Dark Law or either to one of your Colossus. And you have options. You can have a Nominee Negate. The idea is for you to draw the cards that you want to go into the specific Xyz or the specific links that you have, depending on what turn you're playing. If you're playing first, you will want to set your Appaloosa with your number 23 Lancelot and then either Colossus or Dark Law. You're playing second, then you would want to either OTK your opponent, or you have cards like Underworld Goddess. So if they have a card that is hard to be removed, like the Ignister Boss Monster, as you can see here, that he is unaffected by everything. Cards like Underworld Goddess of the Closed World does not care. They will just instantly distribute it for her to get into the field. So that is for the third deck. I think this will be one of the most fun. I will actually can't wait to play this. But yeah, let's go and show you guys the fourth deck. For our fourth deck, we are actually playing a zombie pile with a P.U.N.K engine. As you can see, we're utilizing the same hand traps. In this case, we actually added Sapphire Gamma and the driver. But then we are adding the zombie monsters that we would add generally. The P.U.N.K monsters for the engine, the one that searches the trap for us to have the extra monster negate, target negate. And then the standard zombie monsters that you would see in the general zombie monster deck for the zombie world, basically. 1 Fairy Snow for us to utilize. Netherworld Banshee to search the zombie world. You get the gist. Also for this deck, if you have terraforming, if you have cards like Metaverse, for example, You can search your zombie world with that, because when you get your zombie world, this is when your deck starts to get going. But yeah, as you can see, the general cards, as we obviously used the previous three decks, sorry. We're actually utilizing a card that is a very spicy take for me, and I will actually integrate this in my zombie deck. It is a Deal with a Dark Ruler and a Berserk Dragon. Basically, when a level 8 or higher monster under your control was sent to the graveyard, basically you either link summon it for whatever, because you will do that with your P.U.N.K Balladrock. You will basically have a free level 8 into your field that can also attack all monsters your opponent currently controls, and at worst you can use this with the with any basically tuner that you can have to go into your synchro plays. Basically general zombies monsters, as you can see, more punks. We're also using a lot of Heavenly Prison to protect our back row. Nibiru, you get the idea. This is the general cards that you will see in the Highlander format for this specific event. Don't be afraid again to test cards, see how they work. Mask Change, as you can see again, because we can get into Draglo with this deck. Breakthrough skill is basically infinite permanence that targets, but it needs to be on the field. Serenoid Style, to basically tribute a zombie monster that you control to target 2 cards on the field and destroy them. This deck works really well. It's pretty consistent for what it is for this Highlander event. Yeah, with Rivalry of the Warlords, you will basically lock your opponent. For the extra deck, as you can see, Millennium Miser Strict for the instant fusion. Masked Hero Draglo, we can easily get him out with your Mask Chains because you have a plethora of dark monsters. Your Super Poly targets, then your Borlord Savage, you get the idea. You'll have many options for you to get into your extra deck. We utilize a plethora of cards that you can use to disrupt your opponent, and obviously Access Code Talker and Underworld Goddess for you to either OTK your opponent or for you to remove a card that is problematic for you that you cannot remove otherwise. This deck is pretty fun. Honestly, I cannot wait for this event to come out, because this is when you will actually see people test and see their skills into deck building, because this event is like no other. You can test and see cards and interactions that you would not have seen otherwise, and I can't wait for this event to actually come out. I genuinely can't. And let's go and show you guys the 5th and the final deck for this video. For the 5th and the final deck, we're actually playing a virtual world P.U.N.K pile. As you can see, general hand traps. We're using Psyche Wielder and Triker as extenders. This is a general idea for the deck, for you to go into your more synchro lines and get going. The P.U.N.K engine, as we've said, we're also using Fertile Snow. If we don't have cards that I'm showing you guys that I'm recommending, obviously, again, as I've said multiple times, test and see with what you got. More hand traps, more traps, whatever you may have, it can work. Nemesis Corridor to get into your Colossus, your more virtual world names. We're even playing the 2/2 for this. The Ascendant of Thunder for the free level 7 and for the extender. Then we have Foxy Tune for the P.U.N.K engine, Heavenly Prison, Lord of the Heavenly Prison, then Biru, and then we get into the spells. The general gist, as you saw the previous thing, with the virtual world cards for the P.U.N.K cards, the emergency teleports for the free extension. As you can see, for traps, I even added Choice and Tribute because it works. Let's be real. Breakthrough Skill for the negate, Infinite Permanence, more negates to stop them from playing. The virtual traps, you get the idea. For the extra deck, same thing, Colossus again. Then we have the Rising Crap, some people call this, but it's actually a pretty good card. Stardust Charge Warrior, you get the idea. The Stardust Dragon is for the base, in case you resolve your Gamma into your turn to have a non-negate. That's why I added it. If you have any other level 8 that you would want to add, you're free to do that. Then Cloud Castle, basically Crystal. This card is actually insane. You make him with 2 tuners and 1 non-tuner, and when you special summon him, you target monsters your opponent controls or in the graveyard up to the number of synchro materials you used. That means you either target 2 into the field or graveyard and you banish them. Pretty good card. And if he's destroyed, you can target one of your banished monsters and you can special summon into the field. Phenomenal card. Vermilion Dragon Mech, the Ravenous Croc, Shen. We're also using the Amazing Dragon, pretty good card. Geomathmic Final Sigma, Chronoceler Ptolemy, Phantom Fortress Endeavor, and then Zeus. This deck works phenomenally well. Every single deck that I showed you guys works really well. For this specifically, you have so many extenders that you can play and make any of these extra deck monsters that either draws for you, that either will give you removal options. Also, you can even play Baron for this deck. Obviously, I did not add her because it will be rare, because you need to draw the Ascended Thunder. But obviously, you can do that because you can use the Ascended Thunder, and any of your 3 Synchros or P.U.N.K monsters that you have go into your free Baron, so you are free from any Nibiru in case they draw it. But you get the gist. This is basically, guys, for the 5 decks that I'm recommending. And as I've said, don't be afraid to test and see how things work for you, depending on what you have in your collection and your cards. Test them out, add them into the deck, see how they work. You get the idea that, and you will see this in multiple videos if you go and watch on YouTube right now, is you will notice that most of the people actually play the same cards. Basically, you will have your Immense Teleports with your P.U.N.K engines, whether that is Swordsoul, because these are easy cards that extend a lot, so you can go more into your single plays, and actually, with few cards, you can get a pretty decent board out of nowhere. So that's, in my opinion, will be the most prevalent decks that we will see on the meta, on the festival, I mean, but I could be wrong, obviously. But again, that is my opinion. That was it for the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hopefully have earned your subscription, like as always, and I'll see you guys next time.